Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Lives Leaf Talk. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate, leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also all smart TVs 2016 forward. And you can also check out Candid Frank Live, Candid Frank Stanisci, the YouTube channel. Ah, you know, the game that we watched the other day, the infamous 4-1 lead, the infamous 3-goal lead 2 nights in a row. Two Canadian teams fall behind by 3 goals, Aaron, and they come out and make not only a comeback, but they win. And I'm telling you, Aaron, I saw both games and I saw a similarity there. I saw some Canadian, you know what?
You look at these games here and you got to think to yourself, what is it about that particular score?
History can be unkind, but it can be worse when it's revisited on you as
Oh,
opposed to us.
it just seems to repeat so often.
There it is. It's unbelievable how 3 goal leads are something that doesn't matter what time of year it is. It just isn't guaranteed to be safe.
Well, it used to be 4 or 5 years ago, a 3 goal lead was pretty much a dead cinch for teams to lock it down and close out the game. Now, 3 goal leads don't seem like all that much at all, and I'm starting to wonder if there's something in the water or something in the air, man. Because yeah,
I,
it's
I think it's a reflex action based on um, the offensive play of defenseman. When we talk about a shutdown defenseman today, we're looking at a 1 or 2 on a team. You can't have more than 2 shutdown. You can't have more than 1 shutdown defenseman. And when I say a shutdown defenseman, I'm talking about a Luke Richardson. You can't have 2 of them on one team because the defensemen have to get in the play. That's the way the systems are today. You watch every team, and look, you want more proof? Teams play with a 5 forward power play. How much more proof do you want?
No, it's true actually, and that's been a consistent and growing trend as teams going with 5 forwards on the power play instead of a 1 and 4.
So when you do that, you leave yourself open to defensive failure because of a lack of familiarity. And it's just. But what I got to say about that more than anything, that game that I could just see the heart attacks. That were being had. The game was 4-1, and everybody's going. I could just hear the Leaf fans go, "Well, here we go again. This is maybe we'll win Game 7 this time." Well, um, yes, the game to decide the series will be happening in Toronto, as it might in 7, but they could end it in 5, and I like their chances, Aaron.
No, I looking at the way that the Leafs have played and or not played, depending on who you ask. They were woefully inconsistent for the 2 games that did happen to be played in Florida. The only reason that they managed to come out of those with wins was a little bit of luck. They were outplayed, quite frankly, for most of those periods that they played in Florida. The fact that they emerged with 2 wins is miraculous. The fact that they mounted a 3 goal comeback is miraculous. If that doesn't seem to be a harbinger of things to come, I'm not sure what is.
Well, you could say that they could have got it in the buns the way they went, but instead they created a role reversal, and it was a role that they played a lot during the season and in the playoffs the past few years, where they have. We saw this. How many times we see it in the Montreal series? They could have won that series 4 straight. They just couldn't win in overtime, and they couldn't finish off their offense. What we saw uh, in the last game and in Florida, to your point, in Tampa Bay, we saw a team, for example, like Austin Matthews. He gets 2 goals. He didn't get as many chances. We're used to seeing him with 9, 10 shots on goal, Aaron. I don't think he had 9 or 10 shots. And every goal All three of those goals the Leafs got, including the winner, the comeback and the winning goal, were tips in front of the net. That's something that I think I can honestly say the man that brings that to the Leafs and has made it very popular is John Tavares. That's what he does. Those are the kinds of goals he scores. So what we're seeing here is seeing a team that's a direct reflection of their captain. Because all those goals were goals that I could see John Tavares scoring.
For sure. I mean, Achari getting the tip, getting that just under the bar. Kerfoot, especially in that overtime, getting his stick on that was absolutely unbelievable. Austin Matthews with his second goal, tipping it out of midair. Again, a lot of tricks and tips and deflections right in front of the net. One of the analysts on Sportsnet was actually saying that Vasilevsky has a lot of issues tracking pucks coming in from the point. And the fact that Kerfoot managed to take his eyes away on the overtime winner, I think speaks volumes to that. The book is also out and has been out on Vasilevsky for a while that he's weak blocker side. And I don't know
Well,
why more teams haven't been key to exploit that. But, having it repeated on national television like that, just setting it out there, hey, this is something that the Leafs need to key on. This is something that all teams need to key on.
I just don't know of many goaltenders, Aaron, who can stop those kinds of deflections.
Oh no, few and far between when it comes to that sort of thing.
Those are hard. You can't. All you can do is set up where you think the puck's going to go, and if it doesn't go where you think it's going to go, there's literally no reaction time. So you can't really react to the tip. It's going where it's going to go, and if you're there, hooray! If you're not, uh-oh. And there were too many uh-ohs for Tampa Bay. I was watching one of their podcast folks. Our buddy David does a Locked On podcast for the Maple Leafs. I watched the Locked On podcast for Tampa Bay, and the host, the commentator, he started by saying, that might have been one of the worst. You know what? I think it was one of the worst. No, you know what? It was the worst playoff game that Tampa's ever played. Um, it's amazing when you say that because the reality is, and we say this all the time when we talk about teams and they beat Toronto or Toronto beats another team. We seem to a lot of times we tend to key on the team that wins and forget that the reason the team that wins is because they did something a little bit more. It wasn't just that Leafs couldn't score and they lost. It's also the fact that the other team did positive things. And the Leafs did positive things. The words that the coach used, if you remember the game before, we continued to bend. We bend, we bent, but we didn't break. And that was true in Florida.
And honestly, all told, Tampa Bay was the better team for approximately 67 minutes last night. The other 13 just happened to be ruled by the Maple Leafs. That's just the way this sort of thing goes.
Yeah.
I mean, they were absolutely dominant for the last half of the third period, and that was the only time that they were dominant. The rest of the game belonged to Tampa. Tampa just ran our show up and down the ice. It didn't matter.
Well, the victories we talked all tip-ins
Mhm.
and how do you defend against a tip-in? Can't grab
Exactly.
the
But the
guy.
only thing you can do is get big across the bottom of the net, and Vasilevsky did that. Unfortunately, when the tips are going under the bar and you're big across the bottom, there's not a lot you can do.
Yeah, they did a great job that way. We have a situation where the Leafs get an extra day off, momentum, another day to lose momentum, I guess. More time for Tampa Bay to think about what went wrong in Tampa. So I don't know which way which is worse or better, however you want to define it. Is this extra game better for Toronto or is it better for Tampa?
Certainly, when you look at the different injuries that Tampa has been nursing, this would seem to help them. But at the same time, the Maple Leafs do need a little extra time on their end as well. Um, no word as to how close Murray actually is to coming back. I'm sure Giordano is nursing some bumps and bruises based on how many shots that he's blocked. Riley has two black eyes. It's one of those where the extra day both helps and harms both teams in equal measure, based on the fact that they're both suffering through roughly the same sort of thing.
I have to say as well, when we talked about and I mentioned about the playoffs being an opportunity to vindicate oneself, right? To reinvent themselves, and what we saw, and I think the most significant person that his pitcher should be beside, reclamation project, vindication, reinventing oneself and creating success out of what recently was failure. I think Morgan Riley's pitcher is under that definition. He has been the kind of Morgan Riley we expected him to be, and the Leafs need him to be.
No, for sure. He from a slow start to the season, to an injury, to a long period off, to a slow return and recovery from said injury. It's been frustrating to watch him, for sure, for a lot of people this year, especially based on the contract that he's currently receiving. Um, you know, you certainly expect value for money when it comes to that sort of thing. Um, and at the age of 29, uh, being a couple seasons removed from a 72-point season, which is what inspired his gargantuan contract in the first place. He finished last year with 68 points. A lot of people don't remember that. You know,
Was a
that
while
was very
ago.
close to his 72 that he had in 2018, 2019. So his 21-22 season was again 68 points. His 2022-2023 season was only 65 games, again because he missed a chunk to injury, but still 41 points there. He is still a solid offensive defenseman, and the Leafs need to keep remembering that.
Speaking of players and how they fit into the playoff Leafs, you asked me off air. I'll ask you on air. Are they punting bunting?
Personally, were I Sheldon Keefe, this is one of those if it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of situations.
Who do you take
Nice,
out?
Lafferty. Like, without a doubt in my mind, if they were going to try to be dumb and put Bunting back in, they would have to take out Lafferty.
Can't do it with Nyes.
No, Matthew Nice has proved himself to be far too
And then
valuable at
and
this
then you
point.
got the winning goal scorer. With
Hmm.
before that goal, you might have taken him out, but not after that goal.
Yeah, no. Matthew Nice has been contributing at a very high level. Um, he's basically their alternative to Bunting for the top six. He doesn't have the reputation. He's less likely to get called, also more likely to get calls. Um, you know, uh, I don't think Bunting is by any stretch done. He's just not currently the right fit for this kind of series. Bunting, to me, seems to be a player that you may want to put in there later in a series when the refs stop calling penalties. As you get into games 5, 6, and 7, the referees call fewer and fewer penalties. This is not me blue skying it here. This is an actual observable trend in the National Hockey League. They'll start out calling the first two games of the playoff series relatively tight. Things get looser in 3 and 4. 5, 6, and 7, it's the Wild West. But at this point here, based on how Nyes has been playing, how Achari has been playing, how Crowfoot has been playing, you really can't slot him in at this point.
Yeah, and there's a lesson to be learned, and here's the other thing that you know has to be given thought. You want Nyes in there because you want him to become a better player because he's your future. I think it's fair to say that Bunting isn't. Uh, he's on the fence, or well, he's been placed on the fence by the Maple Leafs. Bringing him back for the amount of money that he would want may not be possible.
Oh, I'm sure he'll have a great contract. It just won't be with the Leafs. That's really what it boils down to here. Is he's unfortunately outplayed his window and overplayed his window here in Toronto. He's proved himself almost too good, but with too large of a downside at the same time. And by that I mean, um, he's a very good, effective player when it comes to the forecheck. He's good at getting points when he needs to, but unfortunately, he's garnered himself a reputation that's going to follow him around the league. So while I think it would be great if they were able to keep him on, I just don't think they'd be able to for the money that he will command by the time his contract is up.
So it's not like that he has them over a barrel that, okay, I'm not going to sign with you because you didn't play me, because there's odds that, you know, the writing's already on the wall, in my opinion. That's what I'm getting at.
Mhm.
And Nyes is the guy. Nyes is the guy who's going to be in there. I don't think I'm not losing anything in my mind where we're seeing exactly why Bunting is expendable. Nyes has made him expendable because Nyes is a top six forward. And we know that Bunting, depending on how the coach feels he's playing, isn't necessarily a top six. He could be a bottom six too. He bounces from top six to bottom six. So what we're talking about here, we're talking about a kid in his first year who's already established that I think he's a top six player without a doubt.
Oh, for sure. And I'll be honest with you, there's additional motivation here for Nyes to play well, because about 2 weeks before the playoffs started, he lost a Final Four game in Amalie Arena. I don't think he ever wants to go back there.
I remember he was quoted as saying that place stinks.
Yep.
I don't think he was being literal. I think it was figurative.
Oh,
But
probably.
but you never know. Let's talk about Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. Don't look like they're, I'm not going to say their game is ordinary because the points belie that fact, but minus the points, they haven't really been the kinds of players that we've seen them. My biggest complaint about Marner and Matthews during the season was they need too many chances to make something good happen. They've done a lot with very little in this playoff series.
That's the thing. They've done a lot with very little and have been almost unnoticeable while doing it, which I,
Absolutely.
I think is kind of what you want.
In the
You don't
playoffs?
you don't
Absolutely.
always need your best players to be visibly your best players. You need your best players to continue to contribute in a way that people are going to overlook them. Like, for example, the Matthews' second goal, his tip-in. They completely lost this 6'4", 210-pound player because he circled the net, and they completely lost sight of him. Like Ovechkin with his tinted visor and bright yellow laces. You completely lose him on the power play when he sets up in his circle. In the same way, Matthews taking that circuitous route around the net before popping back front to the bumper position, they completely lost him. And the fact that they've been very, very quiet about doing that, I think, speaks volumes as to how teams, based on Toronto's playoff stigma, tend to overlook our stars.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where if you're tipping in goals, I mean, the defense is looking for him. Where's Matthews? Where's Matthews? Oh yeah, there he is with his arms in the air
Son of a,
because it's
just son of a.
because that's what it's all about. And this is a part of the playoffs that what they've done. This is a team that and I've talked about their lack of physicality, right? In these victories in Florida, what they've established is they don't need to be physical. I mean, people have talked about this when I've argued that the team needs more physicality, not necessarily them. It's never about them that I felt that physicality was necessary. It was for the players around them, for the players who could set a tone where, they have a little bit of freedom to make their plays. But what Marner, Matthews, and this group as a team, and we saw it with Kerfoot, you can hang on to him, but you won't hang on to him in time because we saw what happened with Matthews and even Kerfoot in Kerfoot's goal. He just set up in front of the net. All right, he's blocking. Wait, he's tipping a shot. That it all happens so quickly where you can't tie up their arms and their hands. It's a penalty. So as long as the Leaf players have their sticks free, and I think, if there's a characteristic that I think at least in this series the Leafs have established is stick to puck contact. They're really good at it. And they've used it to a very big advantage against Tampa, who loves to clutch, to grab, to hold sticks and do stuff like that. They're not getting enough time to do it. And that's the beauty of the way the Leafs are playing. It's that even in those things that they're notorious for, that last year they were notorious for, holding sticks and stuff, they can't they can't grab a stick in time because of the way it's being played. They're not stick handling in front of the net. They're just tipping the puck. What do you do?
Now, at this point here, I think the only way that they're going to be able to tie up the Leafs is to literally hog tie them, and that's it's not going to work. You know.
Now, in we've got a couple of minutes left. The Leafs are going to be at home. Do you think that who's going to come out? Do you think with all the pressure? Will it be the visitors, Tampa, or will it be the home team, Toronto?
I think there's going to be sawdust made on both sides, but for sure the majority of the pressure is going to be on the Tampa Bay side, just for the very simple fact that they were two-time Cup champions. They didn't win the Cup last year. They lost it to Colorado, and here they are getting beaten or down 3-1 to a team that they defeated handily. So
So,
definitely pressure is definitely on them.
in interpretation, goaltending for Toronto is going to be very impactful. Transition from defense to offense is going to be effective if the Leafs can, because if Tampa decides to really try to get some goals, they're going to leave themselves in they're going to be in a troublesome situation when it comes to Leafs and 2-on-1s. And God willing, if you're a Leaf fan, breakaways as well. So early, there could be a lot of goals scored early in the game for either reason or both, depending on how you want to call it.
And again, I think the key here is shots from the point, making sure that there's traffic in front and taking away Vasilevsky's eyes. That's the most effective way to get through to him.
Shots on net, buddy.
Yes,
Shots
sir.
on net. That's what it's going to take. It's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting series. And how celebratory do you think Toronto hockey fans are going to be if they can? If they can do it. If they can do it, Aaron.
I say it's going to be happy but subdued, just because the job isn't done yet.
That's what I think is going to happen in the Leaf dressing room.
Yep.
I don't think that's what's going to happen outside. I think it's going to be unleash the Kraken. I don't mean the ones in Seattle.
Well, we'll see what happens. Here's hoping they play a decent game on Thursday.
Yeah, as long as they're committed to defense and they play responsibly, Tampa's has no choice but to set themselves up for making mistakes. They have no choice.
Yep, and the Leafs need to capitalize, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, they're gonna have to shoot the craps. They're gonna have to really roll the dice while they're playing. So it's going to be an interesting view of what kind of counterpunch the Leafs can put together. Aaron, this was awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Frank.
Okay, for William Freeland, I'm Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live's Leaf Talk, seen live on Fridays. And for now, while the Leafs are in the playoffs, Mondays and Wednesdays as well. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Network. For Leaf Talk and other news and sports and entertainment programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget, Candid Frank Stanisci, 1030, the YouTube channel. Subscribe. See you next time.